7 teams from all around the world have been pushed to their absolute limits in challenges that they will never encounter again in their life. Then there was 3 teams. This is the road to the Photonis Ultimate Forces Challenge Final.
Come on, guys! Come on! Hold it, hold it, hold it!
The Photonis Ultimate Forces Challenge, an annual extreme endurance competition for athletes from across the globe. On the Indonesian island of Bali, 42 elite athletes push the limits of teamwork, tactics, and pure physical strength to prove who's the fittest of them all. Seven teams from 6 countries began the Photonis Ultimate Forces Challenge, right here on this boat anchored off the beautiful Balinese coastline. 42 athletes unaware of both each other's strengths and the physical and mental battles that lie ahead.
We are presented with an opportunity of a lifetime and a phenomenal competition.
None of us knew what to fully expect when we landed in Bali.
42 odd people out of the entire world that had the opportunity to do this, and yeah, it's been incredible.
Right from the very start, the UFC showed its true colours. As a way of a welcome, the athletes all participated in a warm-up, Special Forces style.
Swam to shore, tasted blood in my throat, lactic acid going, exhausted.
So you're in the moment, you're not really thinking, it's almost your instinct takes over.
After their initial warm-up, they found themselves on the battleground we call Bali. They had just enough time to catch their breaths before beginning their first real challenge.
So we just got off the boat. We don't know what our next assignment is, but it's UFC and that's what it's about. So we're gonna push forward to our next event and see what happens next.
For all the athletes, the game was clear. The UFC would only reveal the nature of its challenge minutes before it actually begun.
We didn't know what to prepare for, and we didn't mentally know what to prepare ourselves for.
Getting the unexpected, I think that's the beauty of being here in Bali. Like, that's what this is all about.
Unexpected and unforgiving, because in addition to Bali's suffocating heat, there was something else weighing heavily on the minds of all our athletes, and that's elimination. After the very first challenge, the team that performed the worst would be sent packing.
I slept with a reality stick. If at any point you falter or fail, you will be eliminated. You will be sent home. And I know for a fact I don't want to go back to my country with my tail between my legs and say I let you down.
In this decisive first challenge, the athletes first had to sprint through the Balinese jungle, after which they would hold up 200 kilograms of dead weight hanging from the end of a rope. A teammate would drop off every 30 seconds until there were just 3 people left. It was their job to hold the weight for as long as humanly possible, and all of this in the harshest tropical conditions you could imagine.
It was hot. We were sweating like crazy. We demolished. We absolutely demolished.
We were sweating. We weren't even doing anything and just gross.
The athletes quickly discovered how important tactics were for surviving the UFC. With immediate elimination hanging over their heads, the teams desperately adopted their own strategies to keep the weight in the air.
1, 2, 3, 4.
We thought we would have done well because of our size, but I think just the technique of having the anchor hurt us in the end at that.
Because I'm a fireman and I made a knot in the rope and I hold it like it was for my life, for my group, for Belgium.
Different tactics, very different results.
I just reefed it down and I wrapped my legs around the pole and was just kind of hanging like a monkey, basically.
Chris was taking up all that extra oomph right there. He probably was holding Stephanie up in the air as well.
The result, a dangerously mediocre time. Fortunately for the Americans, they weren't the only ones following a flawed strategy. In the heavily anticipated battle between the 2 Dutch teams, the blue team made what would end up being a fatal mistake.
He came in front because he wanted to try in the right angle. Well, it didn't work.
The South Africans, on the other hand, immediately revealed themselves to be the team to beat by managing to keep the weight up for a staggering 12 minutes.
Your mind is telling you let go. You're shouting at your body saying, don't let go, hold on.
Okay, we finished the warm-up. Bring the real stuff.
We smashed it. We absolutely smashed it.
But while Team South Africa brought their best game to Bali, the blue team from the Netherlands could do little more than lick their wounds. After just 1 day on the island, it was time to go home.
This is the game we want to do. This is the Ultimate Forces Challenge. This is where we trained for. And now it's over.
But this is the reality of the Photonis Ultimate Forces Challenge. And while the team from the Netherlands retreated to pack their bags, the remaining 6 teams had to queue up for the next challenge.
Oh my God!
With only a single respirator to share, the teams had to solve a puzzle while underwater.
We're pumped, thought we had this nailed.
Quite a challenge in its own right, but one that became so much more difficult after every passing minute. The weather was proving extremely erratic. Team Orange of the Netherlands was the last to enter the water, when the conditions were probably at their worst.
Just couldn't breathe. It was just my breath.
But they seemed to suffer more than the others. Even Inga, one of the Dutch team's strongest swimmers, was visibly shaken by the rough water. Soon after, UFC officials decided to cancel the challenge due to safety concerns.
We don't want any accidents.
The teams, of course, respected the judge's decision, but the repercussions weren't over. Inga and the others from Team Netherlands were so shaken up by the event that they made the unprecedented decision to withdraw from the challenge entirely.
I drank the whole sea, I guess.
In just one day of the UFC, the number of teams dropped from 7 to only 5.
I kind of get it. They had a couple of people in the team that were a bit nervous about the water, so yep, fair enough.
We came here to do stuff that puts us out of our comfort zone, and even if it's hard, you've got to try it.
Just 2 challenges into the competition and 2 teams already eliminated, this is the UFC at its finest.
With 5 teams remaining, each challenge is getting tougher and tougher. Every single contestant is pushed to the mental and physical limit on a daily basis.
The remaining teams were eager to prove they had what it takes to compete in the UFC. Over the course of the next few challenges, both tactics and teamwork played an increasingly important role. Raw strength was no longer enough to post a result.
All the challenges were incredibly challenging.
It's about climbing, running, obstacle runs. It's everything is in it. It's a great competition. You have to do this. You have to compete this to know how it feels.
Just as important is learning to navigate external elements like the excruciating Balinese heat and humidity, which has the knack of going from bad to worse.
It's more fun when you're dirty, right?
Dirty and dangerous. The weather exposed everyone to unprecedented conditions that seriously affected the performances of some of our athletes. Like Sander from Team Belgium, he slipped, eventually spraining his ankle during the jungle run.
He said, I'm going to go for it. It's my man.
And while the Belgians are playing catch-up, the Canadians were playing it safe to avoid the same fate as Sander. But in the UFC, playing it safe is hardly a winning strategy.
I think we were a little too careful because at the end of the event we weren't dying. We realized, oh yeah, we definitely could have gone harder on that event.
South Africa proved to be the UFC's real powerhouse. They won the first challenges by some big margins. They never held back, sometimes with little regard for their own personal safety.
We finished the competition and we put the ball down and we walked away. And the ball came down and hit him on the head, but nobody was paying attention.
Fortunately, Victor wasn't injured in his victory celebration, which was important because the day was far from over. The UFC is all about competing in the most extreme conditions and in virtually every circumstance imaginable. That's exactly what it delivered.
The challenges are getting more and more difficult.
I've never worn night vision goggles before, so it was a very new experience for me. The difference it makes is absolutely incredible. It literally makes the nighttime look like daytime.
In total jungle darkness, each team was tasked with finding the materials needed to build a simple bridge over the river. The catch was, only 2 members were given military-grade night vision goggles. This challenge was about trust, tactics, and ultimate teamwork.
I see a rope here, I think.
Both Team USA and Belgium proved to be the best at dividing the tasks among the team members.
I think we did it good. We did a good job on this thing.
The mighty South Africans, however, seemingly invincible in the competition so far, performed, for lack of a better word, badly, thanks to poor communication.
We don't talk much. That was the complaint from their side.
Where are they? Come on, where are you guys? Guys!
Nothing. You're going to stand here. You're going to listen to me. Okay. Until I say do something.
We couldn't plan around this obstacle. There was no tactic. Once we were in it, we were just winging it.
But winging it translated into losing their first challenge of the competition. Much to the joy of the other teams, the first cracks appeared in the South Africans' armour. But despite their loss, the South Africans still had a commanding lead overall. With the Americans a close second, Belgium, Canada and Australia were locked in a battle for third place. But with just 6 challenges completed, anything was still possible. And for the time being, it was smooth sailing for the leaders of our pack, South Africa.
I think it's because of what we do, and we always put ourselves out there, pushing ourselves mentally and physically. It's a matter of you're up against other countries, you don't think about it. You make it possible.
Never doubted us for a second.
With so much at stake, the adrenaline was running high. Each team proved not only that they were full of professional athletes, but they showed a lot of camaraderie and team spirit.
The people part of UFC was really amazing for me.
Very, very good friendships made. There's a big camaraderie, a lot of laughing.
I learned a lot about of my abilities, and I also learned a lot about working with some phenomenal athletes from different entities of the industry.
Within the teams themselves, the athletes quickly discovered their complementary skills and personalities. They learned from each other's strengths and proved that by functioning as a team, they could become better individual athletes.
Weaker one stronger, and then the reach in the front, powerhouses in the back.
I've participated in many team sports, but I did learn a few things. Maybe also strategy-wise, that sports is not all about brawn, it's about strategy as well.
Finding what are the best parts of people and then fitting it together like the puzzle. How are we all going to work together? Because you can't all be amazing runners. It's that working out people's skills and how we gel together.
They were immediately able to put these crucial learnings to the test. In the 5 challenges that followed, the teams were hyper-aware that they were quickly zeroing in on a new elimination round. But it's hard to ponder the future when you're battling Bali's various elements.
You okay?
No, I'm killing myself, man.
You want me to take over?
Yeah, switch.
The competition is harsh, and despite our athletes being extremely well trained, the challenges are clearly taking the toll on all contestants.
Everyone was digging deep, maxing out their physical abilities, often venturing beyond their comfort zones while remaining safe and healthy. Most succeeded in avoiding serious injuries. Others, however,
medical team,
did not.
As we jumped onto the boat, I said, guys, when we get off this boat, please make sure that you take care of your feet. First thing that happened, Terence jumps off the boat, straight onto something sharp, big cut under his toe, a lot of blood.
This shit is about not giving up.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
Terence wasn't the only one to pick up a nasty injury. Adam of Team Australia had been battling a pulled hamstring from the get-go, while one team of USA simply stopped showing up due to an injured back. Once the mighty number 2, the Americans began landsliding down the rankings.
We were frustrated, and we were down to 5, so that was one less guy that would have been more helpful getting up.
And a winner!
While the Americans went from bad to worse, Team Belgium suddenly started to flourish. But the excruciating competition was beginning to take its toll.
Having 5 is a definite fallback for us. It's a hard, another challenge in itself.
While in hot pursuit of South Africa just a few challenges earlier, the fewer numbers and fatigue began to seriously influence their place in the rankings.
We were trying to get a game plan together, also being odd numbered, just trying to see how we're gonna make this event work.
Should want to get the smallest girl to do this.
We already had another guy on our team kind of bitch out for no reason, so that's frustrating to me. That's, you know.
The next possibility to gain back some ground was during an excruciating 2.5-kilometre relay race that involved the athletes having to run, swim and scale various obstacles. Lasting more than an hour, they had to dig deep into their reserves to battle both themselves and the excessive Balinese heat.
The run was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
This challenge also turned out to include a heavy dose of psychology. A few teams, namely Belgium and Canada, decided to deliberately avoid obstacles, happily accepting time penalties for a psychological advantage over their opponents.
Ran onto the second one, and Canada decided to run straight under me. I didn't know that this was going to happen. I thought every team was going to try all the obstacles. He messed with my mind, disappointed in myself that I was outsmarted.
Playing mind games with Victor.
And Paul's plan worked perfectly. Team USA, however, continued to struggle. With Rodney no longer able to compete, Kyle took it upon himself to compete in the relay race. Twice.
You know what? The first obstacle, I knew that I was in trouble because it was way more difficult than I thought. I still was able to make it up over that obstacle, but I was gassed after that.
Next one, let's go. Good push.
Kyle wasn't the only athlete to double down. Eva from Team Belgium also filled the void left behind by a sick teammate.
Bianca was a bit sick, so we let her out. So that means I had to run twice.
But while Kyle struggled,
as I proceeded through the course, the second obstacle I actually didn't make it up, but I wasted a lot of energy.
Eva solidified her status as Team Belgium's MVP.
Felt even better the second round than the first.
Eva, what a little jet. You know, really impressive. She's very young, very fit, very strong in the mind.
With her stellar double performance, Eva helped Team Belgium to victory and even turned them into a force to be reckoned with in the coming challenges. Team USA, on the other hand, was a parody of their former selves. At the cargo net, their fiercest competitor, Stephanie, pushed herself a little bit too far. This led to a near catastrophic result. While she was able to finish the race, her fall turned out to be the nail in Team USA's competition coffin.
There's already something here previously.
Yeah, I broke 9 bones in it 2 years ago, so it's sort of a...
So it's a recurring thing?
Yeah, probably didn't hold up as well, but...
That puts Team USA down to 4 now.
I think we're gonna have to bail. I think we're gonna have to...
Really?
Yeah.
You can't continue the competition with...
Doesn't look like it.
You know what? This is a team event. We're down to 4, and we just can't compete with 4 anymore. So that's the end of it. We're out of the competition.
It was gutting to see them have to pull out like that. They were a very, very strong team.
They're brilliant people, really, really nice people. And it was sad to see them go. It was really, really sad to see them go.
And just like that, Team USA were out of the competition. Moving up a spot each were a resurgent Belgium, followed by an Australian team that seemed to be finally finding its stride. The Canadians may have moved up a spot, but if they were to survive elimination, they'd have to adopt a now or never mentality. Team South Africa, while still on top, seemed to be slacking.
We boasted and bragged every single day, and we had bragging rights. And now all of a sudden we were losing these bragging rights, and we were making a mockery of ourselves by losing. Just hearing the other countries just take a dab at us was what drove us to push that much harder and go for victory.
With only 4 teams left, the Fotonis Ultimate Forces Challenge is reaching boiling point, with only 3 teams progressing to the grand final.
With 10 challenges completed and just 4 teams left, the tension was clearly rising. The final elimination round was on everyone's mind. With only a few challenges remaining, it was looming in the near future.
It's always on your mind when you know there's an elimination coming up, but you don't focus on that because that's all you'll think about. You focus on each challenge as it comes.
Easier said than done, especially when you have a 4-point lead over your nearest rival, Team Canada. But it's never a smart strategy to underestimate your opponent.
We knew we were near the bottom of the pack, so we just wanted to keep moving up one spot to really stay in the competition, really.
We know where we are in the standings, and I think need a little bit of a miracle.
When you get placed in a situation like that, it's fight or flight. You know, you survive.
The Canadians had one advantage over the other teams, and that was good health. Throughout the competition, they have been immune to the injuries and illnesses that have slowed down the other teams.
We actually joke about it. I think we're the only team that has had all 6 ready to do every single one. If this competition lasted a couple more weeks, maybe we'd keep climbing, because I think it's a battle of your immune system, injuries. I think everyone's, a little bit scratched and bruises, but very, very minor compared to maybe some of the other teams.
An ideal starting point for the last challenges leading up to the final elimination round. And it did prove to be an advantage for Team Canada as they faced a wide variety of obstacles, locations and mind-blowing stunts. Among the try-before-you-die experiences, they were faced with navigating an abandoned amusement park and abseiling down a 35-metre waterfall.
I've never abseiled, I've never, gone across the top of a rope. There were so many things that really challenged me. I hate heights. I don't actually like swimming. There were all sorts of things that, for me, were personal challenges and team challenges, and it was amazing to overcome.
It was definitely a lot of fun, and not something I'd normally do. So all these things in the woods, in the ocean, in between canyons, and everything we did was new for me, and exciting, and definitely worth coming to Bali for.
The South Africans cowboyed up and began winning challenges again, assuring Dina and her teammates a place in the finals. In the meantime, Team Canada were in the middle of a miraculous run, finishing second 2 times in a row and bringing themselves within 2 points of their nearest rival, Team Australia. Second place Belgium also knew it had secured a spot in the final. The real battle was between Canada and Australia, so all eyes were on them.
Everybody's a little bit nervous today. It's a scramble. The points are really close. It's a fight for fourth and third.
In the last few competitions, penalties have played a pretty big role as far as switching rankings, so maybe some more penalties might play a big role.
The Canadians were first to make the 35-metre drop down the rushing waterfall. It was far from a walk in the park.
Doing things I'd never done before and seeing what you're capable of.
Matt and Carson were impressive in their waterfall descent and jungle run, but struggled carrying the sandbags upstream in what was clearly the toughest leg of our competition to date.
Super hard challenge. Hardest one so far.
Now rest. If it's sitting on the rock, just rest. Carson's behind you.
But we have to win it, but when you're in there, you're not even thinking. Right now, we just want to do it together and complete it.
Which is precisely what they did, and they managed to post a very good time in the process.
But yeah, I definitely thought we had a pretty strong time.
But now, all Team Canada could do was wait. UFC leaders South Africa were up.
It was very physically demanding.
Which was immediately clear.
It was emotionally demanding, and that made it interesting because we had to dig deep and dig hard.
Just like Matt and Carson, Victor and Dina struggled upstream with their sandbags. But even the mighty South Africans couldn't beat the time set by the Canadians. The same can be said for Team Belgium, which, despite having an experienced abseiler in their team, couldn't surpass the surprising Canadians. Finally, it was Australia's turn, whose only goal was to beat the Canadians and avoid being sent home.
It is possible that we could get knocked out and anything could happen.
In the first leg of the challenge, Team Australia were impressive. Both Victoria and Wayne proved they could perform valiantly under stress.
Wayne was amazing. He negotiated our course up the channel. We got our bags eventually to the front and straight back and under the finish line.
By the time they reached that finish line, they were well ahead of every other team in the competition, including Canada.
At number 1, Team of Australia.
Fantastic for us, Team Australia first, and that actually bumped us up to overall second ranking, which was really, really exciting. But yeah, of course, then that also meant that somebody had to go.
Team of Canada.
Bittersweet because we knew we did well in that last challenge. Losing in that fashion to better people is the way to do it. So we went out on a high.
Having fought to the finish line, Team Canada were heading home, leaving us with our 3 finalists.
Australia, Belgium and South Africa are the 3 teams who will progress to this grand finale. Only one of those teams will remain victorious and become our overall champion.
We are more than ready to kick some ass over here.
3 great teams, great people. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better final.
We're representing our country. We just got to put everything out on the line and we just got to go for gold.
This is the final. May the best team win.
Go!